Welcome back to the Ireland Contracting Nightly Sports Call, powered by FanDuel Sportsbook. Josh Taylor here in studio. Paul Zeise over in the 93.7 The Fan studio on that camera. 412-575-2600 is the number to call on the Borges & Borges hotline. But before we take calls, before we take more tweets, let's go to our tweet of the night, brought to you by Tri-State Office Furniture. It comes from Pirates broadcaster Joe Block. And Paul Zeise will bring you in on this question. Will 7-inning no-hitters in perfect games be counted as such? And that's a reflection, of course, of the rule that MLB has adopted for this season, that any doubleheaders will be 7-inning games as opposed to full 9-inning games. Paul, your thoughts on this one? How should they score this?
Yeah, I think so. I think because they're official games, right? I mean, I think if a guy goes a no-hitter and he goes through 6 innings and it gets rained out, and they declare it, the game's over, they don't postpone it, I think he gets credit for a no-hitter, so I don't know why they wouldn't give him credit for going 7. And it's an official game. Yeah, it also speaks to the fact that, it's one of those things where if that is the case and something like that happens, they can say, hey, it could be the difference between a 7-inning game and a 9-inning perfect game or a 7-inning perfect game. It still goes in the books, like you mentioned. As long as it's official, it still counts. I mean, it's kind of hard to try to find a way to circumvent that rule now when we're in such a unique situation, just trying to get everything to make sense as far as the schedule is concerned. So circumventing the rules just makes it a little bit more complicated. But, bringing it back around to that decision, let's actually talk about that. We'll talk about another decision that was made today, too, in the area. But, Paul, the thought of playing 7-inning doubleheaders, just trying to get these games in, does that seem like a viable alternative for you? Yeah, I mean, I guess so. And it's 2020, Josh. Anything can, I believe anything. Believe me. Was it a couple weeks ago, Rex Chapman tweeted out a picture of a bird with a shark in its mouth. I mean, I don't doubt anything that happens this year. Everything crazy or whatever. And to me, 2 7-inning doubleheaders, I don't understand the reason why you need to do it. You've got an expanded roster. I mean, you've got 30 players as opposed to, what is it normally, 25? Mm-hmm. You've got extra pitchers. You've got 30 more guys in Altoona. I just don't understand why you got to do it. But look, if they feel like they need to preserve players and all the other stuff that they're talking about, more power to them.
Kind of surprised me, just because we've seen 7-inning doubleheaders in the minors. We've seen it in the college game, so it's not like it's that unfamiliar of a concept. Just seeing it in MLB, I think, is the thing that kind of jars people's memories quite a bit. But another big announcement I wanted to talk about, another big decision, I should say. The WPIAL has decided that they are going to push back the opening date of fall sports. Football will start around September 10th, September 11th. They're also going to have fewer teams in the playoffs, so they're going to move those first games back a couple weeks like we mentioned. Also, the original Week 10 games have been rescheduled for Week 1, and there will be also fewer teams when the WPIAL playoffs come around. So, Paul, I want to get your thoughts on that. I know you and I talk quite a bit as far as high school and college sports from time to time, but your thoughts on this altering of the rules here for the WPIAL?
Well, again, I'm probably going to get myself in some trouble for saying this, but what exactly is going to be the difference between September 1st and September 10th? I mean, all of these people that keep making these rules that we're going to move it back 2 weeks. We're going to move it back college football. We're going to move it back 3 weeks. We're going to move it back 2 weeks. What is going to be the difference 3 weeks from now versus now? It makes absolutely no sense to me. Either you can play or you can't play. And if you can play, then why are we moving it back 15 days unless you have some, direct crystal ball that, it goes into a lab somewhere where they have a vaccine coming and you can definitively say it's coming, 8 days from now. Okay, fine. But you don't. And we don't have that. So what is the point of all of these? Let's push it back. We've got college football. Oh, well, we're only going to play 10 games now. Or actually, the ACC is playing 11. See, because, Josh, if they'd have played 12, that would have been a real problem. But they're only going to play 11, so problem solved. I mean, the SEC is not going to start on the 10th. They're going to start on the 17th or the 18th or whatever it is because, that's a much better plan. I mean, all of this stuff to me is just a bunch of guys sitting around in a room throwing darts at a board and hoping that something, okay, well, let's see. Well, let's start it on the 17th. Let's do that. That's where we're at with this nonsense.
It's like I almost know when you're going to launch into the right thing at the right time. I wanted to ask you a specific question. But specifically when it comes to college football, we're talking about the major conferences, of course, with the ACC, what the SEC is doing, the Big Ten, obviously is switching up their schedule. But as far as the group of 5 teams that usually benefit from some of those non-conference matches, especially those first couple games in the first couple weeks of the season, maybe those pay-in games, so to speak, how much more do those programs suffer from having those games maybe canceled or pushed to the side?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's a big thing. You know, that's one of the reasons those games are played. And so, to me, I feel like, this is just all part of the casualties of what's going on with 2020. And you know, Josh, I tweeted about this earlier today. I think none of those teams should go after the Power 5 schools if they break the contract and don't pay them the money this year, because they didn't play a game. But the Power 5 schools, in turn, should make sure that they reschedule these games so that these teams can still have, you know, down the road next year, the year after, or whatever, whenever it fits in, they could still, you know, reap the benefits of it. That would be the right thing to do. That would be the easy thing to do, Josh. It would be the common sense thing to do, which means there's no chance it'll get done.
It won't do it.
Exactly.
Because it makes too much sense. You're absolutely right. Paul Zeise in the 93.7 Defense Studios. Josh Taylor here in the Pittsburgh CW Studios. 412-575-2600 is the number. Paul, we got to talk some Penguins because they're back on the ice tomorrow against Montreal. That leads us to Alex's question. Who do you think will score the Penguins' first goal tomorrow night in Toronto?
Well, I know some people that would say, you know, they hope it's Teddy Bluger because he's like, if you look at those sports books, he's literally like 3,000 to 1 to score the first goal or something. And I know a few people who might have put a few chocolate chip cookies on that. But that being said, let's just make it easy, Malkin. How about that?
I'm going to put my answer on the first line. It's going to be either Sidney Crosby or one of those 2 wingers. I figure Connor Sherry and Jake Gensel will have their opportunities with Sid on the ice. So I'm going to say one of Sid's 2 wingers is going to be the first to score the goal. Which one, we don't really know because he's really good at setting up both. But I'll go with that answer. But let's shift it over to another discussion that's been the hot topic in the past few days. And it's something that Mike Sullivan has called a difficult decision. And he's not telling us the decision that he's made, who he's going to start at goaltender. I talked to Andrew Filipponi about this earlier. He gave his opinion. He thought it should be Tristan Jarry just based on his performance earlier in the season, early in the year, how well he played, and more consistently. And we know that Mike Sullivan likes to go with the hot hand, but here's the difference. We've seen a long layoff. Neither guy has built up that kind of momentum right now. So if you're Mike Sullivan, Paul, where are you going and why?
Josh, you're a boxing fan, right?
I am.
You're a boxing fan. You watch boxing, right?
I do.
If you got a champ, if you got a contender and a champ, right, and it goes the distance, who wins? The champ, right? Because if you're going to unseat the champ, you got to knock him out, right? So Jarry was a little better than Murray this year, but not nearly enough. Not so clearly better that it was a knockout. So to me, you stick with the champ. He keeps the belt. And then you see what he does. I mean, people can say, oh, well, the winning those 2 cups was a couple of years ago. Well, you know what? They still happened. And the bottom line is Tristan Jarry has not proven that in the playoffs, and Matt Murray has. So let's you know, if I'm the coach, I say let's see what he can do. And if he doesn't get it done right, then guess what? We'll go with Jarry. But, you know, this idea, well, Jarry was better this year. Okay, he was so marginally better, right? That to me, it's not like, okay, he's earned the job. You earn the job by being so much better that it's an easy decision. But if you're going to unseat the champ and take the belt, you got to knock him out. And Jarry just didn't do that. So to me, I go with Murray.
You know what? You can make that a wrestling analogy or a boxing analogy if you want to be totally technical. But I give you credit. That's probably the best boxing to hockey analogy I've ever heard. That's pretty good. We got to take another break, and we will wrap up when we come back. Stick around.